I never intended to work for Kobe Bryant. My goal had always been screenwriting, another ambitious 20-something in Los Angeles, chasing the Hollywood dream while serving table stove pay rent. But 6 months of rejections and a surprise eviction. Notice have a way of reshaping priorities. The job listing was vague. Estate manager assistant for high-profile celebrity residence, Newport Beach, extreme discretion required. The pay was triple what I made waiting tables, and Newport Beach meant escape from my cramped Los Angeles apartment with 4 roommates. My film degree and hospitality experience made me minimally qualified, so I applied without expectations. 3. Rigorous interviews later, each with increasingly detailed NDAs, I found myself sitting across from a stern-faced woman named Julia, who ran operations for the Bryant household. "Let me be clear," she said, sliding a final contract across the mahogany desk. "This isn't just a job, it's a commitment to absolute privacy and exceptional performance. Mr. Bryant expects excellence in everything, not just from himself, but from everyone around him." I nodded, signing the document with attempted confidence. "We've had 3 assistants leave in the past year," she continued. "They thought they wanted to work for Kobe Bryant, but they actually wanted to say they worked for Kobe Bryant. Do you understand the difference?" I wasn't sure I did, but I nodded anyway. "You'll begin tomorrow. 5 a.m. sharp. Don't be even 1 minute late." As I drove home to pack my belongings, excitement battled with anxiety. Kobe Bryant, 5-time NBA champion, basketball, legend, global icon, the Black Mamba. Everyone knew about his legendary work ethic, his competitive fire, his Mamba mentality that had become both marketing slogan and motivational mantra. But as I would discover over the next year, the public persona barely scratched the surface. The true meaning of Mamba mentality wasn't what Kobe said in press conferences or what Nike printed on t-shirts. It was something far deeper, more complex, and more profound than I could have imagined. Something I would witness in the quiet moments when no cameras were rolling and no fans were watching. Chapter 2. First day. My first day began in darkness. I arrived at the security gate at 4:45 a.m., heart pounding as it presented my newly issued credentials. The sprawling Mediterranean-style estate was beautiful, but not ostentatious, impressive but purposeful, like the man himself. Julia met me at the door, already fully dressed and alert despite the early hour. "Mr. Bryant has been up since 4, she informed me as she led me through the house. "He's in the gym. You won't see him until later." The next 2 hours were a whirlwind orientation, learning the complex household systems, security protocols, family preferences, and my specific responsibilities. I would be managing schedules, coordinating with staff, handling certain correspondence, and ensuring the household run with frictionless efficiency. "The family values their privacy and normalcy at home," Julia explained. "Your role is to make problems, disappear before they become problems." At 7:30 a.m., I caught my first glimpse of Kobe as he walked from his private gym to the kitchen. He moved with focused intensity, still sweating from what had clearly been a punishing workout. He nodded briefly in my direction as Julia introduced me, his gaze direct and evaluating. "Welcome aboard," he said simply, before turning to Julia. "The Mandarin tutor confirmed for the girls today?" "Yes, 3 Allen p.m. after school. And your call with the publishers is moved to 5:30. He nodded, satisfied, then turned back to me. "You'll figure it out quick or you won't last. Nothing personal. That's just how it has to be." With that, he grabbed a protein shake from the refrigerator and disappeared into his office. Julia caught my expression. "Don't take it personally. He's not cold. He's focused. There's a difference." Throughout that first day, I navigated the complex ecosystem of the Bryant household. I met his wife, Vanessa, warm but appropriately reserved with new staff. I glimpsed his daughters, their laughter echoing through the halls. I learned the rhythms of the household, the meticulous attention to detail in everything from meal preparation to security measures. But most fascinating were the glimpses of Kobe himself, moving between roles with seamless intensity. In his office, poring over business documents with absolute concentration. In the family room, fully engaged with his daughters, the competitor completely absent, replaced by patient father. In his creative studio, working on his book and content. Projects with the same focus he once brought to the basketball court. As my first day ended at 7:00 p.m., I felt both exhausted and intrigued. The Kobe Bryant I had observed wasn't exactly the one I had expected. The intensity was there, yes, but it was more controlled, more purposeful than the snarling competitor I remembered from Lakers games. What I didn't realize was that I had only witnessed the surface. The true nature of Kobe's mentality, what truly made him different, would reveal itself in the quiet moments, the private spaces, the unguarded instances that few outside his inner circle ever saw. And, over the coming months, I would be granted an accidental education in what Mamba mentality really meant, far from the cameras and catchphrases that had commercialized it. Chapter 3. The schedule, 3 weeks into my job, I had settled into the rhythm of the Bryant household. My primary responsibility was maintaining Kobe's non-basketball schedule, managing his business meetings, media appearances, family commitments, and creative projects. What struck me immediately was the precision of his time management. Kobe's days were scheduled in 15-minute increments, each block allocated with specific purpose. There was no such thing as an unplanned moment. 7 a.m. Training. Basketball skills, strength, conditioning. 7 a.m. 8 a.m. Breakfast and family time. 8 a.m. 11 a.m. Business meetings and calls. 11 a.m. 1 p.m. Creative work, writing, content development. 1 p.m. 2 p.m. Lunch and rest. 2 p.m. 4 p.m. More business or creative work. 4 p.m. 7 p.m. Family time. 7 p.m. 8 p.m. Review and planning. 8 p.m. 9 p.m. Reading. 9 p.m. Sleep. This schedule wasn't just a guideline, it was adhered to with military discipline. One morning, when a prominent CEO was 7 minutes late for an 8:30 a.m. meeting, Kobe calmly informed him that they now had 23 minutes remaining for their 30-minute discussion. But we could just extend, the CEO began. We won't, Kobe replied without animosity. The next block is allocated for something else. Being present means being fully present where you are, not borrowing time from somewhere else. The CEO never arrived late again. What fascinated me most about Kobe's schedule was the clear delineation between modes. When he was in business meetings, he was fully the entrepreneur and investor. When he was with his family, he was completely present as a father and husband. When he was creating, he was entirely the artist and storyteller. Most people try to multitask and end up doing everything at 70%, he explained when I once asked about this compartmentalization. I'd rather do each thing at 100% and accept that some things just won't make the schedule. The only constant was the 4 a.m. training. Despite being retired from professional basketball, Kobe maintained the same punishing workout schedule he had, followed during his playing days. When I finally worked up the courage to ask why, his answer surprised me. It's not about basketball anymore, he said. It's about the practice of mastery itself. The process has always been the point. This philosophy extended to how he structured his daughter's activities as well. Each of them had their own calendars, their own areas of focus, their own standards of excellence to pursue, not imposed by their father, but developed collaboratively, centered around their individual passions. During my second month, I was reorganizing Kobe's office when I came across a worn journal, thinking it was a current notebook. I opened it to place it properly on his desk, and realized it was a schedule book from 2006, the heart of his playing career. The pages revealed the same meticulous time blocking I was witnessing now, but even more extreme. Each day mapped out in tiny increments, each practice broken down into specific skill segments, each recovery period precisely timed. Margin notes tracked energy levels, performance assessments, and adjustments for the next day. This wasn't a recent development or a post-retirement hobby. This level of intentionality had been his operating system for decades, through championships, injuries, controversies, evolutions. The schedule wasn't just how he managed his time, it was how he engineered his greatness. And yet, for all its rigidity, I also observed remarkable adaptability within this framework. When his daughter had an unexpected school issue requiring parental attention, blocks were instantly rearranged. When creative inspiration struck during a designated business period, he would note it quickly and return to it during the appropriate time. The schedule, I came to understand, wasn't about restriction, it was about liberation, creating the structure that allowed for total immersion in whatever the moment demanded. Chapter 4. The Study. In my 4th month at the Bryant residence, I was entrusted with managing Kobe's personal study, organizing materials, maintaining his resource library, and ensuring the space remained conducive to deep work. The study revealed dimensions of Kobe's mentality that rarely made it into public view. While fans knew about his basketball obsessiveness, few glimpsed the breadth and depth of his intellectual curiosity. His bookshelves told the story. They weren't filled with basketball, manuals, or sports biographies, though those existed in a small section. Instead, they overflowed with diverse subjects: ancient Greek philosophy, Japanese aesthetics, European art history, business strategy, screenplay structure, innovative technologies, and child development psychology. Most striking was how these books were consumed. They weren't pristine collectibles, they were thoroughly used tools. Pages were dog-eared, margins filled with Kobe's distinctive handwriting, sections highlighted and annotated. He didn't read passively. He interrogated texts, argued with authors, connected concepts across disciplines. One day, while organizing newly arrived books, I noticed multiple copies of certain titles, some in English, others in Italian or Spanish. "Mr. Bryant reads books in different languages?" I asked Julia when she came to retrieve something. "Only the ones he considers most important," she replied. "He believes you understand concepts differently through the lens of different languages." The walls of the study held further insights. Rather than basketball memorabilia, they displayed art that Kobe had personally selected, pieces that spanned centuries and traditions. I later learned he spent hours in conversation with curators and artists, not as a wealthy collector, but as a student genuinely seeking to understand creative processes across mediums. Most revealing was his desk. While meticulously organized, it featured an unusual system. At any given time, exactly 5 projects occupied the space, each represented by a specific notebook of different colors. When I finally asked about this system, Kobe's explanation illuminated a core principle of his approach. 5 is the maximum number of major focuses anyone can effectively maintain, he explained. More than that, you're just dividing your energy into ineffective fragments. Fewer than that, you're not maximizing your potential. Currently, his 5 consisted of a children's book series, a sports-centered media company, a venture capital fund, a coaching program for his daughter's basketball team, and what he simply called legacy study, a project I would learn more about later. When a new priority emerged, it didn't simply get added as a 6th. Instead, Kobe would consciously decide what to remove or pause from the current 5. I witnessed him decline opportunities that most would consider irresistible: major movie roles, lucrative endorsements, prestigious board positions, because they didn't align with the current 5 priorities. "People think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on," he told me once, paraphrasing Steve Jobs. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas. The study also revealed Kobe's relationship with time in a way his public image never captured. While fans knew about the legendary 4 a.m. workouts, they didn't see the historical context in which he placed his own work. Books on Renaissance masters, ancient military strategists, and artistic movements throughout history suggested someone thinking not in news cycles or seasons, but in decades and centuries. "Most people play for the weekend," he once remarked while reviewing long-term strategies for his business ventures. "Some play for the season. Few play for a career. Almost none play for generations. That's the timeline that matters." In this quiet space surrounded by centuries of human wisdom and creativity, I began to understand that Mamba mentality wasn't just about outworking opponents or clutch performances. It was a comprehensive philosophy of focused mastery, intellectual curiosity, and generational thinking that extended far beyond basketball. Chapter 5. The training. Despite being years into retirement, Kobe maintained a training regimen that would exhaust active professional athletes. My role occasionally intersected with this aspect of his life, when schedule adjustments were needed or when his training influenced other household activities. What I observed wasn't just physical conditioning, it was a masterclass in deliberate practice. One morning, arriving earlier than usual to prepare for a busy day, I glimpsed Kobe in his private gym through a partially open door. He wasn't engaged in flashy, Instagram-worthy drills. Instead, he was repeating the same basic footwork pattern over and over, making microscopic adjustments with each repetition. For 40 minutes, I intermittently watched as he performed essentially the same move hundreds of times, his focus never wavering, his attention to detail unwavering. There was no music, no audience, no validation, just the pursuit of an internalized standard that seemed to exist completely independent of external metrics. Later that day, his longtime trainer arrived for their session. I overheard fragments of their conversation that revealed another dimension of Kobe's approach. "Let's review the progression data," Kobe said, pulling out detailed training journals. What followed was an analytical discussion that sounded more like scientists reviewing experimental results than an athlete and trainer. They discussed biomechanical efficiency percentages, recovery optimization, proprioceptive adaptations, a level of sophistication that went far beyond traditional sports training. When they moved to the weight room, I noticed something striking. Kobe recorded every set, every repetition, every weight adjustment in meticulous detail. This wasn't a new practice. His journals went back years, creating a comprehensive dataset of his physical development. Most guys track what they lift, his trainer later told me when I expressed curiosity about the system. Kobe tracks how his body responds to what he lifts, then uses that data to make predictions and adjustments. Completely different level of thinking. Perhaps most revealing was an interaction I witnessed between Kobe and one of his daughters who had recently started playing basketball more seriously. She had asked for his help with her shooting form. Rather than simply showing her the proper technique, Kobe guided her through a Socratic process of discovery, asking questions that led her to realize the mechanical principles herself, teaching her not just how to shoot, but how to understand shooting. "I could give you the answer," he explained to her, "but then it would be my knowledge, not yours." True mastery means understanding the why behind the what. When she finally made the adjustment and saw immediate improvement, her face lit up with the pride of self-discovery. Kobe's expression in that moment, a mixture of parental pride and teacher's satisfaction, revealed how deeply he valued the transmission of not just techniques, but methodologies. After she left, he noticed me organizing some papers nearby. "That's the real work," he said, nodding in the direction his daughter had gone. "Not creating greatness, but creating the conditions where greatness becomes possible for others." This perspective illuminated something crucial about Kobe's post-playing career. His training wasn't about maintaining his own legacy or chasing lost athletic glory. It was about mastering, the process of mastery itself, so that process could be taught, shared, and perpetuated. The physical training was just the most visible manifestation of a much deeper practice, the disciplined pursuit of understanding, the relentless refinement of method, the commitment to principles rather than outcomes. This wasn't about basketball anymore, it was about the architecture of excellence itself. Chapter 7. The creator. By my 8th month working in the Bryant household, Kobe was deep into his post-basketball creative phase, while the public knew him for his Oscar-winning short film, Dear Basketball, and his book, The Mamba Mentality. I was witnessing his evolution as a creator across multiple mediums. My responsibilities grew to include supporting his creative projects, organizing research materials, coordinating with collaborators, and occasionally providing feedback when asked. This proximity gave me insight into how Kobe approached creative work with the same disciplined methodology he had applied to basketball. What struck me immediately was his process. Unlike many celebrities, who attach their names to projects largely executed by others, Kobe was intimately involved in every creative decision. He wrote his own drafts, storyboarded his own concepts, and engaged deeply with the craftsmanship of storytelling. One morning, I arrived to find him surrounded by classic children's books, analyzing their narrative structures and illustration styles for a series he was developing. He had created detailed charts, mapping emotional arcs, studying how master storytellers built connection with young readers. "Everyone thinks creativity is about inspiration," he explained when he noticed me arranging his schedule for the day. "But it's really about study, iteration, and intentionality. Just like anything else worth mastering, his creative workspace revealed his methodology. One wall featured what he called theancestry, works that had influenced whatever project he was currently developing. For a children's series about overcoming challenges, this included everything from classic fairy tales to contemporary psychology texts on resilience. Most revealing was his revision process. While many successful people I'd encountered were protective of their ideas, Kobe actively sought criticism of his creative work. He had assembled a trusted circle of accomplished creators from different fields who provided unfiltered feedback. During one feedback session, I helped coordinate for a new project. I watched as an accomplished novelist critiqued a story draft Kobe had written. Instead of defensiveness, Kobe took notes with the same focused attention I had seen him bring to reviewing basketball footage. "More specific, please," he urged when the feedback became too general. "Which exact passages lost momentum? Where did the character motivation feel inconsistent?" After the call, he immediately began revising, not in a hurried way to simply incorporate suggestions, but methodically, testing different approaches, examining how each change affected the whole. This wasn't ego-driven creation, it was craftsmanship in its purest form. What I found most significant was how Kobe positioned his creative work within his larger purpose. These weren't vanity projects or simply new avenues for fame. They were carefully designed vehicles for transmitting specific values and lessons, particularly to young people. "Stories shaped who I became," he explained during a planning session for his children's series. The right story at the right time can change a child's entire trajectory. That's not a responsibility he took lightly. His creative process included what he called legacy mapping, clarifying exactly what principles each project was meant to convey and how success would be measured beyond commercial metrics. For his children's content, this included specific developmental outcomes he hoped to influence. This methodical approach extended to his collaboration style. While Kobe's competitive intensity was legendary, his creative collaborations revealed a different capacity: deep listening, synthesis of diverse perspectives, and genuine appreciation for expertise different from his own. During one content development meeting with a team of educators and child psychologists, I watched as Kobe took a completely subordinate position, asking questions and absorbing insights from those with specialized knowledge he respected. "On the court, I knew more than most about winning basketball games," he told me afterward. "In this room, I'm the student. Different context, different role. The ego has to recognize that." As his creative projects progressed, I came to understand that this wasn't a retirement hobby or a second career. It was the natural evolution of the same core drive that had propelled his athletic career, the disciplined pursuit of mastery and impact, simply redirected toward new mediums. The creator was revealing himself to be the same person as the competitor, just expressing through different forms. The methodology remained consistent: obsessive study, deliberate practice, systematic iteration, and unwavering focus on long-term impact. Chapter 8. The Father. Nothing revealed the true essence of Kobe Bryant more clearly than observing him as a father. While his public image often centered on competitive intensity, at home with his daughters, I witnessed a different manifestation of his core principles, one that provided profound insight into what Mamba mentality really meant beyond the basketball court. My role occasionally involved coordinating family activities and managing the girls' schedules, giving me a window into Kobe's parenting philosophy. What I observed wasn't the stereotypical sports dad living vicariously through his children's achievements. Instead, I saw something far more thoughtful, a deliberate approach to nurturing independent thinkers with their own internal standards of excellence. One Saturday morning, I was organizing some materials in the family room when Kobe and his daughter Gianna were reviewing basketball footage. Rather than simply telling her what to do differently, he asked questions that guided her own analysis. "What do you notice about your footwork here?" he would ask. "If you were defending yourself, what weakness would you target? What information was available that you didn't process in themament?" This Socratic approach characterized all his interactions with his daughters. He wasn't imposing his conclusions, he was teaching them how to think, how to analyze, assess, and improve through their own cognitive processes. Most remarkable was how Kobe adjusted his approach for each daughter based on their individual personalities, interests, and learning styles. With Gianna, who shared his passion for basketball, the connection through sport was natural. With his other daughters, he found different avenues for transmission of the same core values, through art, storytelling, or other activities that resonated with their unique interests. One evening, I overheard him talking with his oldest daughter about a school project she was struggling with. Rather than offering solutions, he walked her through a process of breaking down the challenge into manageable components, the same approach he used for mastering complex skills in basketball. "The problem isn't the problem," he told her. "The problem is how you're thinking about the problem." What struck me most was the absence of artificial praise or participation trophies in the Bryant household. Accomplishments weren't automatically celebrated. Effort, process, and growth were the metrics that mattered. When genuine achievement occurred, it was acknowledged authentically, but the focus quickly returned to the next opportunity for improvement. Empty. Praise creates hollow people, Kobe explained when I once asked about this parenting philosophy. Children need authentic feedback to develop accurate self-awareness. The greatest gift we can give them is the ability to self-assess without delusion or unnecessary harshness. This balanced approach was evident in how he handled his daughter's disappointments. Wenon received a poor grade on a project she had worked hard on. Kobe didn't rush to comfort her with platitudes about unfair teachers or minimize the setback. Instead, he guided her through a reflective process. "What can this teach you? How will you approach it differently next time? Where was the breakdown between your intention and execution?" Yet this analytical approach was always balanced with profound emotional presence. Kobe was fully engaged with his daughters, not just physically present while mentally elsewhere, but deeply attuned to their emotional states and developmental needs. He would clear his schedule entirely for school events, facing the logistical complications this created with calm resolve. "Nothing is more important than getting this part right," he said simply, when a business associate questioned his decision to reschedule a major meeting for a father-daughter school dance. Perhaps most revealing was how Kobe approached the question of his daughter's relationship to his fame and legacy. Unlike many celebrities who either showcase their children as extensions of their brand or completely shield them from public life, Kobe seemed to be thoughtfully preparing his daughters to engage with his public identity on their own terms. "They didn't choose this spotlight," he explained during a rare moment of direct conversation about his approach. "But they will have to navigate it. My job isn't to hide them from that reality, but to give them the tools to define themselves within it, or beyond it, if that's what they choose." This philosophy manifested in countless small moments, how he would quietly correct people who defined his daughters primarily as Kobe Bryant's girls, rather than as individuals with their own identities, how he taught them to understand media dynamics without becoming controlled by them, how he shared the less glamorous realities behind his achievements to ensure they understood the full truth rather than the mythologized version. Through these observations, I began to understand that Mamba mentality in its purest form wasn't about competition or even excellence for its own sake. It was about developing the internal resources to pursue meaningful purpose with clarity, discipline, and authenticity. A philosophy Kobe was working to transmit to his daughters in ways specifically calibrated to each of their unique paths. Chapter 9. The Legacy. My time in the Bryant household extended past the 9-month mark. I began noticing how deliberately Kobe approached the question of legacy. This wasn't the legacy building of most celebrities, concerned with statues, naming rights, or ensuring their achievements remained in conversation. This was something more nuanced and forward-looking. One project in particular revealed this perspective. Kobe had been working on what he simply called the legacy study, one of the 5 priorities that consistently occupied space on his desk. Initially, I assumed this related to preserving his basketball accomplishments. I was entirely wrong. The legacy study was a comprehensive analysis of historical figures who had successfully transmitted specific values and philosophies across generations, not just achieving greatness in their lifetimes, but creating systems that perpetuated their core principles long after they were gone. His research spanned widely. Renaissance artistic workshops where masters trained apprentices who carried techniques forward across centuries. Military traditions that maintained particular codes of conduct through disciplined transmission practices. Family businesses that had survived hundreds of years by embedding specific values in each new generation. This wasn't abstract academic interest. Kobe was methodically identifying patterns and principles that could be applied to his own legacy, work. His notes revealed questions he was exploring. How do values survive beyond the charisma of their original champion? What structures best preserve core principles while allowing necessary evolution? How does meaningful impact perpetuate itself across generations? My understanding deepened when I was asked to help organize a particular meeting that Kobe had scheduled, with several educators and developmental psychologists. The topic wasn't basketball programs or sports education as I had initially assumed. Instead, the discussion centered on how certain cognitive frameworks and mental models could be effectively taught to young people in ways that would create lasting behavioral patterns. After the meeting, as I helped gather materials, Kobe noticed my interest in the discussion. "What did you think of their perspectives?" he asked unexpectedly. Caught off guard by the direct question, I answered honestly. "It seemed like you're less concerned with being remembered than with ensuring certain principles continue forward, whether they are connected to your name or not." He nodded, apparently satisfied with this observation. Exactly. Most legacy work is ego-driven. Monuments, named buildings, statues. That's about being remembered. I'm interested in something different. How do you ensure that specific values and approaches continue to improve lives after you're gone? That's impact, not memory. This perspective illuminated so much about Kobe's post-basketball focus. His children's books weren't simply creative projects. They were vehicles designed to transmit specific mental models about resilience, growth, and purposeful effort to future generations. His sports academy wasn't just about developing athletes, it was about codifying an approach to excellence that could be systematically taught and replicated. Even his approach with his daughters reflected this thinking. He wasn't raising children. He was developing the next stewards of a philosophy and approach that he believed created meaningful impact in the world. Perhaps most revealing was a conversation I overheard between Kobe and a business associate who was urging him to be more aggressive in marketing his Mamba mentality brand. We could expand this into a global motivational platform, the associate argued. Speaking tours, corporate programs, expanded merchandise. The demand is there. Kobe's response illuminated his thinking. That approach would optimize for width at the expense of depth. I'm interested in genuine transmission of the complete philosophy to those who will truly implement it, not diluted distribution to passive consumers. The principles matter more than the packaging. This wasn't false humility or strategic positioning. It was a genuine prioritization of impact over ego. Substance over symbol. Kobe wasn't trying to be remembered as great. He was trying to ensure that what he had discovered about greatness could continue to transform lives beyond his direct influence. One evening, I found him in his study reviewing historical materials about ancient wisdom traditions and how they had preserved and transmitted knowledge across centuries despite political upheavals, technological changes, and shifting cultural contexts. "The most important question isn't what you achieve," he remarked, noticing my presence. "It's what you set in motion that continues after you're gone. That's the only meaningful measure of a life well lived." In these quiet moments, far from cameras, and public perception, I witnessed a profound evolution in Kobe Bryant. From an athlete focused on personal achievement to a philosopher-builder concerned with generational impact. This wasn't retirement. It was the next logical phase of the same fundamental mission, expanded to a longer time frame and broader scope of influence. Chapter 10. The Understanding. In my final month working for the Bryant family, an unexpected situation arose that crystallized everything I had observed about the true nature of Mamba mentality. Kobe had been invited to speak to a struggling inner-city basketball team that had lost every game of their season. Rather than sending regrets due to his packed schedule, he rearranged several important meetings to accommodate the request. I was tasked with handling the logistics and accompanied him to the small, outdated gym where 20 teenage boys waited, eyes wide with disbelief that Kobe Bryant was actually standing before them. What I expected was an inspirational speech, perhaps some basketball tips from the legend followed by autographs and photos. What I witnessed instead was a masterclass in the authentic transmission of his philosophy. Kobe began by asking the players uncomfortable questions about their practice habits, sleep schedules, nutrition, and study habits. Rather than offering easy encouragement, he challenged their assumptions directly. "You say you want to win, but your actions say otherwise," he told them with calm intensity. "Winning isn't an event, it's a lifestyle. It's what you do when no one is watching." For the next 2 hours, Kobe worked with these young men, not primarily on basketball techniques, but on how to approach the pursuit of mastery itself. He taught them how to break down skills into their component parts, how to identify specific weaknesses through objective self-assessment, how to develop systems for improvement rather than relying on motivation or talent. Most significantly, he connected these basketball principles to their academic work and life challenges, showing how the same methodical approach could transform any area of their lives. "Basketball is just a vehicle," he explained. "The real lesson is how to pursue excellence as a practice. The game will end for all of you someday. The question is whether you've developed the mental framework to excel at whatever comes next." As we drove back afterward, Kobe was unusually reflective. "Those kids have been told 2 stories their whole lives," he said. "Either that they're victims of circumstance who should lower their expectations, or that they just need to believe in themselves, and success will follow. Both narratives fail them." He paused, watching the city pass by through the window. "The useful truth is different. Circumstances are real, but methodology overcomes circumstance. Belief without discipline is delusion. What transforms lives is the systematic pursuit of excellence, breaking down complex challenges, developing feedback systems, embracing uncomfortable truths, and putting in the invisible hours." In that moment, I understood what I had been witnessing throughout my time in the Bryant household. The Mamba mentality wasn't a catchy slogan or a sports psychology technique. It wasn't even primarily about competitive drive or work ethic, though those were components. It was a comprehensive philosophy of human development, a systematic approach to mastery that could be applied to any domain, transmission of wisdom that had been distilled through thousands of hours of deliberate practice and thoughtful reflection. On my last day, as I completed the transition of my responsibilities to my successor, Kobe led me into his study. On his desk was a leather-bound journal, similar to the ones he used for his own work, but new. "I've watched how you approached your work here," he said. "You have potential that extends beyond managing schedules and households, but potential without methodology remains just potential." He handed me the journal. Inside the cover, he had written, "The system matters more than the inspiration. Detail matters more than talent. The process matters more than the prize. What you do in the dark will someday come to light." Below this was his signature, not the public autograph given to fans, but his actual signatures on important documents. "Whatever you decide to pursue next," he continued, "approach it with the same principles you've observed here. Excellence isn't about what you do, it's about how you think about what you do." As I drove away from the Bryant household for the last time, I reflected on how profoundly my understanding of Kobe had evolved. The public image, the competitive alpha, the clutch performer, the basketball assassin nicknamed Black Mamba, contained elements of truth but missed the deeper reality. The real Kobe Bryant wasn't defined by what he accomplished, but by how he approached accomplishment, the systematic methodology behind the visible results, the philosophical foundation beneath the highlight reels, the disciplined thought patterns that produced memorable moments, and the true Mamba mentality wasn't about outscoring opponents or collecting championships. It was about the relentless pursuit of the best version of yourself through deliberate practice, objective self-assessment, and the embrace of uncomfortable truths, a philosophy that extended far beyond basketball to become a comprehensive approach to a meaningful life. Kobe never spoke about the Mamba mentality during my time in his household. He didn't need to. He lived it, quietly and consistently, in the moments when no one was watching, in the choices made when there was nothing to be gained but the satisfaction of honoring the process itself. And perhaps that was the most profound lesson of all, that true excellence isn't what you proclaim to the world. It's what you practice when the world isn't looking.